Okay, trying to shoot a video here. All right, thanks for joining us today. Today we have my favorite build. This is going to be the Stage 2 build, and why I call it that is it's not just where you're upgrading a controller or a battery. We're going to upgrade all the components, but we're also not going to spend a ton of money, and we're not going to make this thing go 60 miles an hour. So what we're shooting for is a budget build, maybe around $500, $600, $700, depending on what parts you want. And this thing will become something the whole family will have fun on. Even the little guys all the way up to the grandparents will just love to jump on this thing. It'll be snappy with the throttle, and it's going to have a long run time. So, you know, the fun won't stop short. So we're going to upgrade to 48 volt, brushless. We're also going to upgrade the brakes. When you go faster, you also want to be able to stop faster. So that is super important. And we're going to do some stuff like add LED lights for safety and riding at night, have a cool full throttle with a key switch and a voltmeter, and probably some other stuff. So let's do that today on Tackle That. This is going to be a step-by-step guide. I'm going to try to keep it quick, but give you all the information you're going to need to get this thing upgraded. First thing we need to do is remove the battery cover and the fairings and all the plastics so we can start to get to this stuff. We're going to remove all the electronics. We're going to remove all the stuff from the handlebars. We're going to take the motor out, and then we'll start getting the new stuff in. The fairing comes off with a couple screws on the side and a couple screws up here and one on the neck there. That's going to come off. The battery cover has screws all around the sides, and we can pop these off here. And then we're going to slide this back, pop the sides out a tad here. There we go. That is our seat and fairings all in one piece. Don't be running off with my screws. And that's what she looks like inside. So these are set up pretty nice inside. You can just take these connectors apart, and that's for your switch and your charger. We won't need that anymore. So here's your controller, and here's your 3 12-volt batteries, making it 36 volt. The cool thing about the SX is you can just unbolt all this and remove it. The MX is going to have a kind of like an L bracket in here that you actually need to cut off so that you have space for your battery and your controller. All right, that's free. Let's go ahead and cut this negative and this positive, and this positive, and this zip tie. And we should be, there's our controller. Now, as far as other connections, we removed the motor and the battery connection. Let's remove the throttle connection. And then these are the brake sensors, the brake lever sensors, to kill the motor if the brake is hit. And those are our wires. We can cut this one as well. And that frees up one battery and 2 more bolts to unscrew to free up that bottom bracket. Those were already loose. That's kind of weird. All right, so that would be your bottom bracket, and we can take out these other batteries. There you go. That's the great thing about an SX build. Lots of battery space. Let me show you what one of those scuds are going to look like in here. So that's what it'll look like with 2 scuds in there if we were to lay them down, or you can have them sitting up, whatever your flavor. Now, since this is going to be more of a family build, I am going to put the battery covers back on here to hide all the wiring and protect it and make it look a little bit more OEM. So we're going to set them up like this, and we'll put some thick Velcro around this to hold them in place. Then as far as our rear end, let's get this motor off. You don't need no stinking chain cover. And I think that makes it look cooler already. Look how rusty this chain is. It barely spins because the chain is so rusty. It's got 3 M6 screws holding the motor in. And you're going to want to support that. These are small motors, but they are pretty heavy. Take our chain off, and there we go. Now, don't throw this away. A lot of kids roast their motors, and you can get pretty good money on Facebook Marketplace for these older brushed motors. Cut all your zip ties and free all your wires up. And you can start pulling those out the front here like that. You're not going to need any of this stuff that's on the handlebars. There's some Allen keys for the brakes up top. There we go. Loosen that. Slide this off. Slide that off. And slide that off. Perfect. We're going to put our new throttle with our key switch on right here. And let's get the other side off. Now this is a little difficult, and these are usually stuck on there, but with some elbow grease, you take that right off. If you can't get it off, just go ahead and cut it with a razor blade. You won't want those anyway. Finishing up the brake removal, we just need to loosen this one, and then we can take this brake wire out, and usually that doesn't go through there, so you just gotta kind of pull a little hard, and that will take your brake cable out. Same with the front. Just loosen this M6 screw. Same deal. You gotta pull this through just like that. And then to take these calipers off, you just have these 2 M6 screws as well. Ugh! Come on! Did not eat my Wheaties this morning. Let's get in the reinforcements. There we go. And that's how those calipers come off. Now the brakes I'll recommend, the links in the description, will bolt right up to this pattern and right up to these rotors. A lot of people argue with me that they won't fit on there, but they will. When you first install them, they'll be a little snug, and you can open them up a little bit with a screwdriver, and they'll slide right on there, and you can keep these same rotors, which I really do like. They're nice and thick. Removing the last brake lever here, and I think that's it. Really, all we got to do is take the rear wheel off to get the chain off, or we can just cut that. And we'll put a new chain on here, of course. And I think she's ready for some new parts. Now, why take the back wheel off if you don't have to, right? Let's get rid of this chain. Oh, yeah. Look how rusty this thing is. Do not let your chains get this rusty. Now, while you're here and everything's off, give it a good wipe down. Get all that grime and grease and dirt off of there. You know, if your frame is really rusty, you can look at one of my other videos where we did a complete overhaul and repainted the whole frame, and it came out really nice. But this one's not too bad. It's got a little surface rust, but Nothing crazy. It's going to be more of a family bike that I'm not going to worry too much about if somebody wrecks it. There you go. Looking good, right? Got it all cleaned up, ready for batteries, motor, new electronics, lights. Let's do it. I'm so torn. What do you think? Do we put the battery covers on or not? You like these or no? No? Does it look cooler when you can kind of see the stuff in the inside? And we'll make it look nice and clean, get all the wiring nice and clean? Okay. Now you want the battery covers on? Huh? Do you make up your mind? Like this. And like that. Here's that MY1020 motor going in. So we're going to put it in through this side. And mounted just like that. Where's my screws at? And you can use the same exact screws that came out of the old motor. Now, if you're going real high powered and getting like a KR5V, I do recommend getting a tad bit longer screws, because those use some like a kind of a cast, and I have seen the housing snap. So with this aluminum stuff though, you'll be fine with just the screws that came right out of the old motor. But also make sure your sprocket nut is tight, and that is a reverse thread. So you actually want to do righty loosey and lefty tighty. Just like that. And always make sure your teeth match up. This is a 25H chain, so I have 25H on both. Then you can get 35, or you can get like a 420. 35 is usually as big as you have to go. Skip the T8Fs. Nobody really likes those chains. So 25, keep the stock setup chain is fine. And here's the new chain. Reminder, links in the description to all this stuff. Take out this master link. I'm not sure the length on this one, so let's see. First we need to go over the tensioner and then under the sprocket. And then around to this side. Hey, this might be exactly the length we need. Nope, it's too big. All right, let's cut some links out of this. Pull that right out. And we'll use the master link to connect these two sides up. All right, when you put your master link on, the round side always goes the direction of the chain. That way, if anything hits it, it doesn't unclip your master link. Make sure it's all seated on there properly. Losing your chain is not what you want to do when you're out riding. And that's what that master link looks like. Beautiful. It's always important to lubricate your chain, so let's go ahead and do that now. This is wax, and it takes a little while to dry. 30 minutes is what it recommends, so let's spray it on now. By the time we're done installing, we'll be ready to give it a shot. That's it. And this stuff is really nice. It's not going to be all greasy and grimy, and it's going to lubricate it nice and well. Now, I've done a video about how to wire up your FarDriver controller, so if this is new to you, make sure you check that video out. I'm not going to cover it in too much detail here, but I also have a video on how to make your own connectors and solder things up, so you're welcome to check that video out as well. So we just soldered up an XT60 connector, and that is going to connect to our battery. So let's get that all screwed down, just like that. Always make sure your connections are very tight. Not too tight where you're going to strip the screw or break the post off, but tight enough where you can't wiggle those at all. Loose wires create heat, and heat can start melting these things down. And we're going to put this controller right on the back side of this battery. So we might have gotten a little too ambitious with the... No, you know what? I'm going to zip tie it right to that Velcro, because that'll give a nice air gap between the battery and the controller as well. These things don't get really that hot at all, so this will be fine. Let's make sure our battery cover is going to fit over that. And it's going to be tight, but it does. Cool. There you go. And we have to remove these things because those are hitting the battery. All right, motor's connected up. Things are pretty cheap, and it looks like that thing is already getting a little loose. Highly recommend a metal throttle if you want to splurge a little extra, but hey, this is what we got. For the 3-speed, I actually like to put it here. 2 reasons. It doesn't get accidentally bumped up here, and with the stock handlebars, there's really not a lot of space. Once you put the grip and the brake on there, it's hard to fit extra stuff up there. So I'm going to put it here. That way, it's intentional if you actually change that speed. When it comes to the connections you need to make for your throttle and your key switch, you're going to have 2 for your key switch and 3 for your throttle. Again, I have videos on this stuff on the channel. Check them out. But you put these 2.8 millimeter connectors in here, and then we just put our wire in there, crimp it down, and that puts these really nice connectors on there. And then you put these little caps on there, and these will connect right up. Now, before we actually put the connectors on here, let's give it a test. So we'll try it this way first. Boom. That's how you connect your throttle up. Now, this could be either way. You want to make sure that when you turn the key switch, that the voltmeter goes on when it's on, and then the voltmeter goes off when it's off. If the voltmeter stays on the whole time, just swap those 2 wires. All right, let's connect up a battery. You're going to get a little spark. Actually, you know what? I think I got my resistor somewhere over here. So we're going to use this resistor to charge up the capacitors in the controller without getting a big spark. You don't have to do this. This is just me being a little OCD. But over time, you actually can get some carbon buildup on these connectors that you won't want. So after a few seconds, this will limit the rush of current going into there. We should be able to unplug both of those and connect those up without a spark. The voltmeter is on, so we don't want that. So let's swap these 2 wires around. So that means we have blue on the controller side and we have yellow on the battery side, or the positive side. Now let's check, see if we get, there we go. Now it's working right. Let's turn her on, and we get the FarDriver beep. Now yours might start immediately beeping. That means you need to do the auto learn so it can learn the settings of your motor, or you have some battery parameters you need to set. So I've already gone in there and set it to 48 volt, done the auto learn so it learns the, I guess the angle of the poles and properly sets that up. And you also want to make sure you put the right amount of pole pairs for your motor in there. This has 3 pole pairs. Things like the KR5V have 5 pole pairs. So she's on, she's flashing. I think it's ready to twist the throttle a little bit. Let's see what we get. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's awesome. Now let's make sure our 3-speed switch is also set up properly. So we're gonna have black in the center, and then we can just try it each way. So we'll put green on the blue and red on the yellow, and let's see what happens. So it's on 1 right now. And that is definitely the slow speed. So we nailed it right on the first go. Let's get another connector up on there. And we'll put that on and we'll be good. Other thing you always want to do is make sure that you have good connections, that all those connectors are seated in there properly and you can't pull those out. I've seen so many people trying to troubleshoot these and it's just literally a loose wire that popped out one way or the other. So always make sure they're snapped in and connected up there solid. Brake time. Let's spread this out just a tad more here. Where's my flathead screwdriver? Right there. There you go. Just like that. Put this on that rotor first. There we go. Slide it up. Put the screws in. And you can reuse your same screws for this as well. Now the way this works is you want to give the brake some pressure, at least that's how I do it. Give the brake some pressure and then tighten these up. So that way it's lined up properly. There you go. Just like that. Perfect. She's looking good. She's ready for a test run. Now, we haven't tidied up any of the wires or put it all back together, but everything's pretty solid and ready. And I put 1 screw in the fender so we can take it out for a test ride. The other things we still have to do are figure out a charge port. So this is going to connect to both of the batteries, and then this will be on the outside of the bike so we can hook a charger up to it nice and easily. And then we still have to wire up all our accessories. So we're going to use this port off of the battery, connect it to a distribution block here, and we're going to run 2 to the tail light and 2 to the headlight, and those are both going to be on a switch, and we'll mount this switch to the handlebars. Cool. So let's do it. We've removed the switch and the charge port there and just blanked them out with some hot glue gun and some black plastic. And then we're going to mount this guy somewhere, I think over here, because I don't want the batteries that are going to be here to get hit by the back of this. So we got some space over here. So we're going to install this charge port right there. The screws you took out of your charge port work perfect for this new one. Just, you don't have to be too tight on this, just snug because there isn't a lot of meat there. There you go. Perfect. Maiden voyage. What do you guys think? Oh, it's already on. Let's take that little thing off so we can see that voltmeter. There we go, 53 volts. Now I have it on speed 1, which I've made pretty slow, pretty low power for the little guys. Oh, let's turn it on first. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Nice. All right, let's do a little bit faster. Speed 2. Yeah. About double the power. All right, and how about speed 3? Yeah, there we go. That is fast. For kids and adults, this is definitely fast enough. All right. I think our test ride is complete. She works well. Everything's smooth. Brakes are good. So we'll do, these have some cool little adjustments on them. There we go. Make them a little bit softer. So I think now we just need to get the rest of the electronics on, get this thing all slapped together, and she'll be ready to go. Couple last pieces of the puzzle, adding this tail light on there. I use some L brackets there to mount it right up underneath the seat mounting, so that's nice and easy. You can also just zip tie that. If you flip that upside down and use those holes on the bottom and zip tie it, works really well. And on the front, we put a nice LED light, and this thing is nice and bright. I've got a full video on how to wire accessories up for your Razor, so check out that video, and I'll show you exactly how to wire that switch up and all those lights. All right, she's done, and she's a beauty. For a budget build, these things are awesome. Now, if you wanted to go to stage 3, we would need to upgrade the front suspension, get yourself some pit bike forks, clamps, and I can show you that on a future video. Also make sure you have a good rear shock there, and then upgrade the battery to 72 volts. Also, this motor can handle about 100 amps, which is a lot of fun. Put a heat sink on there so you don't overheat it, but if you really want to push 150, 200 amps, you're going to get a KR5V or even a QS motor and really make these things a rocket. But if you have any questions or I missed anything, make sure you comment below, give this a thumbs up, and subscribe so you don't miss those future videos, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.